Welcome to this course that focuses on the fundamentals of HTML5. Really, this course could be a title on the fundamentals of HTML altogether. Now, we will focus on HTML5 specifically, but as the general concept goes, what you're going to be learning in this course mostly will be applicable to previous versions of HTML. So if you do have experience with previous versions of HTML, this may not be the course for you. So I would suggest going back to trainsimple.com and looking at the different offerings we have for HTML5, as I'm sure there's a class that's better suited for your needs. However, if you're new to web design and web development altogether, you're in the right place. So let's go ahead and define what HTML5 is. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And there's several different versions of HTML. Now, like I said, our primary focus in this course will be HTML5, as that's the latest iteration of the markup language. Now, we will explain in greater detail over the next couple movies exactly what hypertext markup language represents. But just know that there's several different versions that you may encounter if you enter the world of web development. The first version was developed in 1991 when Tim Berners-Lee decided to create something called the World Wide Web, which floats on top of the internet. Years later, they found that there were several different issues with HTML, and they tried to rectify those issues with various versions. 3.2 and HTML4 address the needs for more of a presentation layer within HTML. When HTML first came out, it really could display text and maybe an image, but there was really no way to create a presentation within those first few versions of HTML. XHTML was introduced to kind of streamline HTML, so it was a more structured markup language. We're now entering the world of HTML5, where we're addressing several different needs that web designers and developers have when creating web content. Before we get into that, though, let's just take a step back and think a little bit about how the web works. There's several different components to the web. The three that we have to be worried about right now, of course, is HTML, which is what we're going to be reviewing throughout this entire course. The idea of a URI or a URL, URI stands for Uniform Resource Identifier, URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. You should all be familiar with what a URL is, and I can only assume that you are if you found this course. The way content is delivered from a server to a client is through something called HTTP. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it does just that. It'll take an HTML document and send it from the server through the internet connection to the client, which is ultimately going to be a computer, a mobile device, something along those lines. So there's an HTML document here sitting on the server, and it would be found by accessing a particular URL. In this case, it would be trainsimple.com, and the particular page that we'd be looking for is index.html. Once the client types that into their web browser, that request is sent to the server. The server then handles that request, finds the HTML document, and delivers it over HTTP. That's the basics in terms of how the web works. Once you have a strong understanding of those concepts, you're ready to go in and start building your own HTML pages. So what we're going to take a look at in the next movie are some of the tools that you can use to write HTML, and then we'll start looking at the basic structure of an HTML document.